Imagine the Super Bowl halftime show as you know it today. The massive stages that assemble in minutes, the pyrotechnics that light up the night sky. The global megastars delivering the performance of a lifetime. We take it for granted that halftime is a spectacle sometimes even bigger than the game itself. But there was a time when this wasn't the case. There was a time when halftime was the moment America got up to use the restroom, grab a beer, or worse, change the channel. Before 1993, the Super Bowl halftime show was, frankly, boring. It was the domain of marching bands, local college drill teams, and peculiar themed medleys like Winter Magic, featuring ice skaters on fake ice. It was filler. It was background noise. The National Football League focused entirely on the sport, treating the halftime break as a logistical necessity rather than a primetime opportunity. They didn't realize that a storm was brewing in the television landscape, a storm that would force them to rethink everything. That storm hit on January 26, 1992, during Super Bowl 26. While the Washington Redskins battled the Buffalo Bills, the rival network Fox made a daring move. They decided to air a live, special episode of the hit sketch comedy show in living color precisely during the halftime break. They marketed it aggressively with a Doritos Zap Time countdown, encouraging viewers to switch channels the moment the whistle blew. The strategy worked brilliantly. Millions of viewers grabbed their remotes and defected to Fox to watch vivid comedy instead of a salute to the Winter Olympics. The ratings for the Super Bowl plummeted by 22% during halftime. It was a humiliation for the NFL and CBS. The message was loud and clear. The audience was no longer captive. If you didn't entertain them, they would leave. Panic set in at the league's headquarters. They knew they couldn't afford another disaster in 1993. They needed insurance. They needed something so massive, so magnetic, that no one would dare touch the remote control. They didn't just need a singer. They needed a phenomenon. They needed Michael Jackson. What followed was a high-stakes negotiation that would alter the course of sports and entertainment history. Michael wasn't interested in filling time. He wanted to create art. He pushed for unprecedented production values, demands that seemed impossible for a live football game, and a global platform for his humanitarian message. On January 31st, 1993, at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, the King of Pop didn't just step onto a stage. He stepped into a war for attention. In this documentary, we will dissect the night that saved the Super Bowl. We will look at the risks, the technical miracles, and the sheer audacity of a performance that turned a football game into the biggest concert on earth. This is the story of how 12 minutes of silence, dance, and anthem changed television forever. Stay with me. The show is about to begin. To truly understand the magnitude of what happened in 1993, we have to look at the desperate landscape the NFL faced. The broadcasting rights for the Super Bowl cost millions of dollars. Advertisers paid record sums for 30-second spots. The drop in viewership caused by the in-living color counter-programming wasn't just embarrassing. It was a financial threat. The network executives and the NFL commissioner realized that the traditional halftime show was dead. The era of marching bands and upbeat, generic Americana was over. The viewer of the 90s demanded celebrity power. The NFL approached Michael Jackson's team with trepidation. At the time, Michael was in the middle of his dangerous era. He was, without dispute, the most famous person on the planet. But booking him wasn't simple. Michael initially declined. He didn't see the value in playing a short set during a football game. To him, the Super Bowl was a rigid, corporate event that didn't align with his artistic vision. The NFL had to pitch him not on the game, but on the audience. They told him, "This is the only place where you can perform live to over 100 million people at the exact same second, all around the world." That piqued his interest. But Michael had terms. He didn't want to be just another act. He demanded a level of production quality that had never been attempted in a stadium setting with such a short setup time. He wanted large-scale illusions. He wanted catapults. He wanted the audience, 98,000 people in the Rose Bowl, to be part of the show. Crucially, Michael broke the business model. He asked for $1 million to perform. The NFL balked. They had a strict policy of not paying performers, covering only travel and production expenses. The stalemate was tense. Eventually, a compromise was struck that changed the industry. The NFL agreed to donate $100,000 to the Heal the World Foundation and purchase commercial time for Michael's campaign during the game. It was a masterstroke. Michael wasn't doing it for a paycheck. He was doing it for a cause, which only elevated the hype. The logistics were a nightmare. Producing a concert of this magnitude is hard enough in a dedicated arena. Doing it in the middle of a championship football game is nearly impossible. The crew would have exactly 6 minutes to drive the stage carts onto the field, assemble the lights, wire the sound, and clear the area of football personnel. If they took too long, the game would be delayed, incurring massive penalties and the wrath of the league. Rehearsals were grueling. The team practiced the assembly over and over, shaving off seconds where they could. Radio City Music Hall Productions, who managed the event, had to coordinate not just the stage crew, but also the thousands of volunteers in the stands who would hold up cue cards for the visual stunts. The atmosphere in Los Angeles was electric in the days leading up to Super Bowl 27. The Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys were the main event for sports fans. But for the general public, the buzz was all about Michael. Rumors flew about what he would do. Would he fly? Would he debut a new song? The anticipation was a stark contrast to previous years, where the halftime discussion was non-existent. For the first time, the Super Bowl pre-game coverage focused heavily on the halftime show. This was the hook the NFL desperately needed. They hoped that by teasing Michael Jackson, they could in living color-proof the broadcast. On the day of the game, January 31st, 1993, the sun set over Pasadena. The first half of the game was played, but a nervous energy rippled through the production truck. As the whistle blew for halftime, the clock started ticking. Hundreds of crew members sprinted onto the field. The precision was military. In living rooms across America, fingers hovered over remote controls. This was the moment of truth. Would they switch to Fox, or would they stay to see the king? The commercial break ended. The stadium went dark. The immense structure of the stage was locked in place. The gamble was about to play out. The NFL had pushed all its chips to the center of the table, betting everything on one man. The broadcast returns from commercial. The voice of James Earl Jones booms over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jackson. But Michael is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, atop the giant jumbotron screen in the corner of the stadium, a figure explodes into view amidst sparks and pyrotechnics. It's Michael. So it seems. The crowd screams. Before they can process it, the figure vanishes, and another Michael appears instantly on the opposite side of the stadium. High atop the scoreboard, it's a magic trick. A sleight of hand using body doubles that confuses and exhilarates the 98,000 fans in attendance. The energy is chaotic, frantic. Everyone is looking up, searching for the man. Then, the center focus shifts to the main stage at the 50-yard line. A trapdoor opens, and the real Michael Jackson catapults 8 feet into the air, landing in a perfect, rigid stance. The toaster jump entrance is flawless, and then he does the unthinkable. He does nothing. For nearly 2 minutes on eternity in television time, where every second costs millions of dollars, Michael Jackson stands absolutely still. He is a statue in black and gold military regalia. He doesn't sing. He doesn't dance. He simply stares behind his aviator sunglasses. The crowd's reaction shifts from cheering to a deafening roar, a mix of confusion and sheer adoration. He turns his head sharply to the left. The screams get louder. He slowly removes his glasses. The tension is palpable. This moment is the ultimate flex of star power. Any other artist would have rushed to start singing, terrified of losing the audience's attention. Michael knew that by holding back, he was forcing the world to lean in. He was commanding the viewers to wait for him. Finally, the silence shatters. The opening riff of Jam kicks in. Michael explodes into motion. The contrast between the stillness and the sudden, sharp choreography is jarring. He sheds the jacket, revealing a white shirt, and the dance break is fierce. This isn't a watered-down performance for a general audience. This is the king of pop at his peak. The transition into Billie Jean is seamless. The fedora comes on. The glove shines under the stadium lights. When he hits the moonwalk across the midfield decal, the reaction is visceral. It's a move the world has seen 1,000 times. Yet seeing it on the grass of a football field during the Super Bowl makes it feel revolutionary. He is reclaiming the space. This is no longer a football game. It is a Michael Jackson concert that happens to have a game around it. The set then shifts to black or white. The energy ramps up with pyrotechnics and a wind machine. Michael performs amidst sparks and smoke, delivering a message of racial unity that feels poignant and powerful. But the true turning point of the narrative comes next. The music softens. The stadium lights. Michael begins the introduction to We Are the World. Unlike the album version, this is performed with a massive local children's choir. The sheer scale of the participation becomes clear. As the children sing the chorus, the audience in the stands gets their cue. 98,000 people flip over card placards. On the television screen, the effect is breathtaking. The entire Rose Bowl transforms into a mosaic of drawings by children from Los Angeles, depicting images of peace and unity. It is a logistical triumph, a visual representation of the global village concept. Michael isn't just entertaining. He is orchestrating a massive, collective art piece. This segues into the finale. Heal the World. A giant inflatable globe rises at the center of the 50-yard line. People of all nations and backgrounds flood the field, surrounding Michael and the children. It is theatrical, yes, but it is also deeply emotional. Michael's voice soars over the choir, singing about making a better place for you and for me. In the context of 1993, with the world watching, this sincerity resonated. It provided a stark contrast to the violence and aggression of the football game. Michael ended the show, surrounded by thousands, the globe spinning above him, a singular figure of hope in the middle of a corporate coliseum. As the final notes faded and the commercial break hit, the verdict was instant. There was no mass exodus to other channels. People were glued to the screen. The risky silence at the beginning, the intricate choreography, the massive choir, it all worked. In just over 12 minutes, Michael Jackson had taken a bathroom break and turned it into the most iconic milestone in music television history. He hadn't just performed, he had conquered. The morning after the Super Bowl, the headlines weren't about the Dallas Cowboys crushing victory over the Buffalo Bills 52-17. They were about Michael. The numbers confirmed what the NFL executives had prayed for. The ratings didn't just hold steady, they increased. For the first time in the history of the Super Bowl, the viewership during halftime was higher than the viewership for the first half of the game. The Michael Jackson halftime show drew an estimated 133.4 million viewers worldwide. The strategy of counter-programming was dead on arrival. In living color had been crushed. The NFL had learned a valuable lesson. Halftime is premium real estate. It wasn't a pause in the action. It was a bridge to a wider audience. People who didn't care about downs or field goals tuned in specifically for the spectacle. This realization fundamentally changed the business of sports broadcasting. From that night forward, the Super Bowl halftime show became a brand in itself. The league ceased hiring marching bands and Up With People reviews. They immediately set their sights on the A-list. Diana Ross, U2, Prince, Madonna, Beyoncé, the Rolling Stones. Every single major artist who has stepped onto that stage since 1993 is walking in the path. Michael cleared. Consider the structure of modern halftime shows. The surprise entrance. That's Michael. The medley of greatest hits rather than full songs. That's Michael. The massive volunteer cast on the field. That's Michael. The heavy emphasis on a social or unifying message. That, too, is Michael. He wrote the playbook. The standing still opening remains the most cited example of stage presence in pop culture history. Artists like Beyoncé and Lady Gaga have studied that performance. To understand how to command a stadium, it taught performers that they didn't need to be frantic to be effective. They needed to be magnetic. Furthermore, the financial model for artists changed. While Michael wasn't paid a performance fee beyond the charitable donation, the exposure he received was priceless. His album sales famously spiked after the game. It is now considered the greatest promotional slot in the world. but perhaps the most significant legacy is cultural. Before 1993, pop culture and sports culture were largely separate entities. You were either a jock or a music fan. Michael Jackson bridged that gap. He showed that a sporting event could host high art and pop spectacle without alienating the core sports fan. He turned the Super Bowl into a communal American holiday where the entertainment is as important as the athletics. Critics have analyzed the performance for decades. Some point out that it wasn't technically perfect. There were lip-sync moments, which is standard for stadia acoustics, but emotionally, it was flawless. It captured the zeitgeist of the 90s, the optimism, the globalization of pop music, and the sheer, unadulterated fame of Michael Jackson. We expect fireworks, surprise guests, and viral moments. We criticize shows that are just okay. We hold every performer to an impossibly high standard. He showed us that halftime didn't have to be a break from the excitement. It could be the highlight of the year. The night he changed the Super Bowl forever wasn't just about ratings or football. It was the night the NFL realized that they were in the entertainment business. And for 12 minutes, the king of pop was the CEO. We've just broken down the 12 minutes that reinvented the Super Bowl. But history is best kept alive through your memories and perspectives. I want to know what you think. If you were watching live in 1993, take me back to that living room. What was the reaction when Michael stood perfectly still for 2 minutes? Did your family think the TV was broken, or were you mesmerized? If you're from a younger generation seeing this for the first time, how does this performance stack up against the modern shows like Dr. Dre's Hip Hop Showcase or Beyoncé's Formation performance? Does Michael still hold the crown? Drop a comment below. Let's start a debate. Is this definitively the greatest of all time? Or has it been surpassed? I read every comment, and I'm curious to see how this performance ages for different generations of music fans. If you enjoyed this deep dive into pop culture history, please do me a favor. Click that like button. It helps the algorithm share this story with more people. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and ring the bell. We have more documentaries coming up, analyzing the pivotal moments where music and history collided. You don't want to miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and keep the legacy alive. See you in the comments.